get started. Let's have a warm welcome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and good morning everybody. I haven't done any English presentation for a long while, so I'm gonna try my best, and I'm gonna try to make it as fun as possible so you guys don't fall asleep. So when I got this invitation, I was really thought about what can I share, and at the end of the day I decided to tell the story like from my design journey, which means I'm gonna bring back a little bit like the time when I back to school, and then how it connected and related to my work today. And I wasn't really pay attention actually, and then until I really gave a deep thought about this, and then I realized it's all actually connected. So my name is Ben, and I'm working for a company called Taiwan Designers Web. And the company is actually my boss. He started this company in order to organize one of the biggest design event in Taiwan. And it's one of the few design events actually organized by like non-government sector, because most of the design event, as you can see in Taiwan, it's actually founded by government. So we are the one of the few that you actually have to buy ticket in order to keep that exhibition survive. And we ordered we actually make it like last for like 10 years, which is already quite something. Yeah. So I actually started like as a volunteer, and then like more than 10 years later, I'm still in this company. So that's me when I was 8 years ago, and it's a bit more slim and skinny. Later we will show some images and videos, and I often post this image before my presentation. It's also kind of like to make you guys feel a bit more relaxed, that I'm actually very cool. And so this is what I did at the time, and I've done this in many countries. So few years back, that was like very popular. I don't know, have you heard? It's called planking, 扑街. Maybe when you were a kid, yeah. That was very popular and actually caused a lot of people dead at the time. But I was just doing it for fun, because when I give a speech in other school and university, and I just realized like students' life can be quite bored, you know, like I asked a lot of, I was also working as a teacher's assistant back to my university in Zhanghua, Daye University. And I realized a lot of students, they're like they don't know what they are doing. Like, they've never been explore the area and all the things. So this is just like, I try to encourage them to do something crazy. And this is also something I would like to give you a tips, like think about it. Like, first of all, like I always ask the audience like why I'm standing here today. Have you ever thought about this? Like why I'm standing here and give you a presentation? And the reason is actually quite easy, like I'm older. That's why I'm standing here. But that means what? That means I'm not better than you, I just studied earlier than you. So you need to think about when you are at age 38. Think about when you are age 38, what you're gonna be or what you wanna be. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is think about what's the most crazy thing you have ever done in your life so far. Yeah. So this is, I don't mean this is like the most crazy thing I ever done, but like this is just something I wanna kind of inspire you. Yeah. So this is in elementary school in Poland, in a small town called Lenica. And yeah, they are elementary school students, yes. Yeah, so so since I started this project, and then like all my friend, they're like my friend from Poland, like from Europe, they're like crazy about it. So like it's just my own little project, but it turns out like every time if I travel with them, they were like, "Man, go there, let's make a picture together," or something like this. So even with a costume at the fireplace. This is in the subway in Milan. So, so this is just like a very brief starting of my presentation today, and I studied at a high school. No, I'm not really studying high school. I studied art when I was in a high school period, and then after 3 years study of art, the first thing I stepped out of school, I was like, I'm not going to be an artist. So I jumped into design without understanding what design means. So I just jumped into that different field. And because I have this background with the art, you know, so I know how to make a sketch, I know how to make a rendering, oil painting, Chinese like calligraphy and all the things. I have those little skill. So in the beginning of my study at the university, I was actually pretty good. You know, like I can do my homework just like, and already much better than the others. So I was quite proud of myself. I spent a lot of time having fun, you know, party. We go shrimp fishing at the countryside. So we go shrimp fishing, bowling, and that's how I spent my study years. And then, you know, like high school students, they are very smart. So they learn very fast. So I think around the second grade, like we are already at a similar level and I have no idea. And then, so I got a little frustrated later on because like I'm not better than the others, and I was actually got failed because I was cursing my teacher in the hallway. So, so teacher gave me 59. You know what it means, 59. Yeah. So, I had quite a rough time, and then there was a period of time that I was really lost. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm studying design. Just like the beginning when I started design. So this gentleman here, he's like kind of really changing my perspective, how I see design. In our education system, it's usually very stiff. Like as my industrial design background, like the teachers always say, okay, if you want to start design, write down this 5W1H. And I was just like, why? When you write down who, if you have to say like 18 to 25, and then I was just like, how about 26? You know, so that kind of study or like that kind of learning system doesn't really inspire me or move me or motivate me. So I think there's also one of the reasons I got really frustrated. And then, so I got failed again at my third grade. So I had to join the summer class in order to continue my study. So at that time, like no teacher want to continue with the summer class because everybody want to have a break. And this German professor who is just coming to Taiwan for guest professor, he became our teacher during that month. And just in 1 month, that really changed my perspective to think about how design can be and how many possibilities. First of all, he didn't teach us like what I learned from the other teachers, like 5W1H. You know, he asked us to tell the story and why it moves you. Like so, for example, we do the project like inspired by children's book, and you need to, before you write down all the brief, you need to kind of have a story like, okay, why I want to do this, like a tour to contain the soup, or what's the reason, what kind of material. You need to give a description right before you start the design, start to make a drawing. And the other thing is, which I will also mention later on, is like he taught us something about quality, which is I never learned in my past 3 years back in the college. So something about quality is also something how you start a conversation about design with the other people. So we often have this situation like Okay, what do you think about this water bottle? It's cute. Why it's cute? I just think it's cute. That's probably most of the case that when we start to have conversation, and then so he give us some tour to really start a conversation deeper regarding the design. So I think that's the thing that he really helps me a lot. And then back to the time that I rarely can speak any English. It's also another interesting part because, as I say, I didn't start it like normal high school, so as most of people are more focusing on the skill instead of like studying English or Mandarin or math. And so I cannot communicate with this guy, so I have to try my best to communicate with him. So in the beginning, when I almost speak zero English, I make a drawing like comic books to tell him what I think about this idea. So he also inspired me that, oh, you can actually do more than just write down the 5W1H. You can actually do a lot more to explain your concept. So that's the thing that I really appreciated at the time, actually. So I'm actually grateful that I wasn't like the good student, so I got failed and I got to meet my professor. And then a few years, I continued my graduate school at the same university, so I'm his teacher assistant for like 3 years. So I was assisting him, I learned from him, and I also make design project with him together. So I really learned a lot during this learning process. And it actually also connected to my job now, actually. So, again, after I graduated from my university, from the industrial design department, the first day I stepped out of school, I was like, no, I'm not going to be an industrial designer. It's like deja vu, it happened again. Instead of that, when I was in college, I was really interesting in like organizing event. I was like managing all this party, matching, or like all these kind of things. So I'm quite good at this, and I was like, I can do this. So, but in the beginning, I still also a bit lost. So I finished my portfolio, and I have a little talent. Let's just say, instead of industrial design, I'm also interested with the graphic design. So I was joining a graphic design company in Taichung at the time. And that was the time that the President Ma starting this 22K policy, which is the salary is like super low. And after a few months struggling, living in Taichung, I realized I don't have enough cash to support my student loan and all these things, like my daily costs. So I have to move back to Taipei, unfortunately. At the time, like my friends said, oh, the design week, they require some volunteers. Perhaps you can help them while you're looking for jobs. So I was just like, okay, why not? Without understanding what design week means. So I just jumped into the team and then becoming a volunteer. And then I realized it's actually a big deal. It's actually they are just starting and everything's still very rough. So I spent like a few months just helping them, and then actually it matched like what I usually like to do. So we started Design Week. This Design Week is very interesting. I'm gonna quickly go through because just about the Design Week we can have another hours. So Design Week in Taiwan actually started from 2007 until 2016. It's like 10 years. And it's very interesting because it's established by a group of Taiwanese industrial designers, like mostly working in like a big company like Acer, ASUS, some this kind of like technical companies. And back to 2007, most of the design students the first priority is go to the big company like Acer and Asus because the salary is good, even though you're working like really hard. But that was like kind of the goal. But that thing, the situation changed actually now. Actually, let's just say like not all the designers want to participate or join the big company group. Instead of like, we see more young talents, they start establish their own business now. So the situation back then is quite different, and as you can imagine, most of the designer working in the Asus or Acer, what they are doing every day, they are making laptop, another laptop, and more laptop. So they spend a lot of time make a discussion about what do you think about this radiation? Shall we make it a bit like this radius should be more smooth, or it should be more hard and other things. It's kind of boring. So the designer they were thinking about, we've been training as a designer that we observe everyday problem and issues and try to solve the problem. And what can we do instead of just making another laptop? So they grew themselves in the very beginning at 2006. And then they're focusing on those topics on the daily life. For example, there was one year the group of designers, they are making discussion about the wall we see, we touch every day. And with all this kind of like almost very simple topic, and then they came out a lot of discussion and opportunities. And those designers, they were so it kind of create very interesting atmosphere at the time in the industry. For example, I'm working in Acer, you're working in Asus, like we are the competitors. But after work, everybody just gathering and sit together and talk about their idea, their proposal, what can they do, and everybody give each other support. So at the time, because of the design week, so we actually built up a very strong network in the design industry. But it was actually quite tough because most of the designers, they have their full-time job. So they do this after work. And then they also have to organize themselves, for example, during making the pavilion design, making the graphic design, in order to make the design exhibition happen. They even have to go ask their boss for the sponsorship. So my boss just thought about like, this has to be done in a more, the way which has more systems. So we changed it in 2009 to make it as a ticket selling event. So by selling the ticket, we give designer more support. Like for example, they could rent a small space, they could rent a big space with a very low price. At the same time, we charge the other design brand or company like a regular price in order to support them. So this is how we started, and at the time there was not many design events. So Design Week is one of the few, so we always had a huge social impact and the long line that people try to squeeze into our event. So this is one of the example, like a designer make a thing called Invisible, and then all the designers start their ideas and prototype making and storytelling. It's not necessarily like a existing or like a commercial product. It can be just a concept. And this is the visual we done in 2011. And we learned a lot from all this process. For example, like in the beginning, the graphic designer just did their part, and then the pavilion designer just done their section. So there's no communication, so it create kind of chaos like this one. It feels like just incomplete. So we learned from this, and then after that, when we did the pavilion design or visual design, we always make sure like both of them communicate very well. And we always try to challenge ourselves by making something unique and different. Like, so this is a Huashan Creative Park, I'm sure everybody knows. And when we did this, like this is like no one ever done this before, like making a huge installation outside of their building. And so as you can see, like this was the work from the group of designers. Like they try to do something different by the power of design. So this is like designer, she found a company that specialized at cutting off the fabric. So they have a lot of leftover, and then according to her, like the leftover can just fill up like 3 warehouses. So they have this huge amount of waste. So designers just sort of, okay, what can we do with this? Can we make it as a furniture, as a home decor pieces, or it can be anything which is possible and it can solve the problem. And so, like starting from 2007, we took more space. So the biggest one, for example, in Yuanshan, this Expo Park, the venue took like 3,300 square meters. So we are keep growing, and then we always try to do something like interesting and different. So like we allow the designer to come out with the crazy ideas. So one thing that we are really proud of is like we actually spend a lot of time to communicate with the designers. Like we spend months to just only talk about what we think about, what's our idea about the theme and in this year. So we leave the brief to the designers, and we never change any design. So when they deliver, then it's done. We are like one of the best client ever, I would say. Also for the pavilion designer, if he said like, "Man, I want to do this, I want to do that," I would just say like, "Listen, I have only this amount of budget, and it's all yours now. So do whatever you want. I don't care, as long as it's safe and it's fun and you enjoyed it, then that's okay." So we always try to make a different challenge like each time. For example, we make this giant disco ball like 3 meters tall, and then we try to combine the visual design with the different colors. And we also started curating our own exhibitions. Like this is one example, like we call TWDW Presents, because we noticed that I was in Milan for a couple of times, and I just realized actually it was the first time when I saw Taiwanese designers work presenting in Milan together with the other designers from the world. We are not bad at all, actually. We are lacking a lot of communication, like there's no press release written in Italian, or there's no press release at all. Like we don't know how to communicate with the people or potential client. But if you talk about the design works, we are actually very good. But nobody pay attention in Taiwan. So I collect all those works which are all presented in Milan Design Week, and I will show them at once to the media in Taiwan, to show them like the design quality in Taiwan is actually very strong. So those are the few images that you can see from our design events. And this is back to 2015. Yeah, the ninth edition of our event. So we every year when we do the installation, we always try to make it in a different way. Like for example, the year before we make partitions in the bubble wrap, like just bubble wrap. And in the beginning, all the vendor was just like, "What are you doing? Like we didn't pay money for this kind of partition." But so I got a lot of argument, complaint about this. But the funny part is like when the exhibition was finished, you cannot see any bubble wrap because everybody wrapped their works with our partition and then bring it back. So we always try to do something interesting and funny instead of just like renting this existing partition, which is boring and not pretty even. So the idea of this year is like we lower the partition instead of like make it this high, but we put the light, as you can see, we put the light in between the partition. We call it's a partition like made out of the light. Yeah. Or you can call it just like a good looking quality of night market. You know, we kind of create this fun, funky, and an interesting atmosphere. So, and it turns out people really like it. So we have a lot of visitors that year. And this is our last edition. So starting from 2007, there was a lot of, there's not many design events. There was no even design select shop at the time. And now you can see everywhere. Every coffee shop, they have their small corner selling their own select objects, and then there's many design event, design talk, design show. So we thought like this is about time, because we are as I mentioned in the beginning, this is the like non-government sector. So we require a lot of ticket selling and sponsorship, which is very difficult. So we started, this is our last edition, so we try to make it fun and other thing. And every year, we, according to the theme, and we ask designers to make a different visual design. And most of our visual design actually has been published in the design magazine in many places and outside of Taiwan. Because this is, when we talk about design exhibition, I think we need to also fit in this quality and request. So we did a show which is like we call back like from the past 10 years, all those classic design objects. We call back and reorganize them and to group them in a different way and then presenting them. And then at our 10th edition Design Week, we also, first time we made the country focus. We cooperate with the HIT, which is a quite famous design school in Israel. So we make a small corner, and then we make a design exhibition. We're showcasing all the design from Israel. Yeah, so that's a part of the Design Week experience. And then I have this honor to also work with a lot of famous designers. If you are a product designer, you might know, or you might heard their name. He's a famous Dutch designer. He is around 77 something. Very tough, but he has a very clear idea. He's like I always say like he's the one who is like a polished diamond. You know, he know what's your strong point, and then he can either squeeze it or like polish it and make it shine. So when I was first working with him, I wasn't really paying attention because I have another project manager who is taking care of everything. So I'm just like an assistant sitting on the side and making note every time he says something. But that was when we always do the com call like with the Skype at the time. So when he finally came to Taiwan, that the project manager has some other business to dealing with, he was just like, Ben, so now you are the translator, like you are the interpreter. I was like, what? You know, like, so I was very, very scared. So we were locked into the hotel room together, like just me and him, and waiting for the designer to come in and talk about their design proposals. So even though I have the 3 years experience working with my German professor, but it's very different experience. So after 5 minutes, he was just like, Ben, stop. I was like, yes. He was like, if you want to work with me, be professional. I was like, I'm not kidding, like literally my whole bag was just wet. I was just like, okay, be professional. You don't have to understand what I'm saying. You just tell them what I'm saying. I was like, what does it mean? Because when I help my German professor to translate it, because I learned from him, I'm his student, so I know what he gonna say and I know what's his point. So I thought like, but how can I translate it if I don't understand? I was like, so anyway, I tried my best, but then I'm very glad that at the end of the day, I actually done okay, I guess. So I learned a lot from this this design master, and then like I have a few working experience with different people from different countries. I was working with Italian, Dutch people, French. Whoa, that's something. And so I learned a lot from all those people, and then like it really shows me like a really different perspective. Like this is working with the Japanese people. And he's one of the famous designer. You can also buy his book in Taiwan. There's a translation. His design studio, if you're interested, you can Google it. It's called Nendo. Nendo. It's Japanese, and Nendo means clay. So they want to just show the reason why they name themselves as Nendo, because they think they are very flexible. What kind of request we can fulfill, like your need and to make you satisfied. So we've done a lot of different things.